Close your eyes for a moment and picture a dream that doesn't make sense. A dream where melting clocks drip off the edge of a table, where giant eyes float in the desert sky, and where a lobster is strapped onto a telephone. This is not just a dream. This is Salvador Dalí's surrealist world, a place where the unconscious mind takes control, where reality bends, and where symbols open the door to secrets often too strange or too powerful to say out loud. Today, we're stepping into the occult world of surrealism, peeling back layers of Dalí's eccentric art to uncover how dreams, magic, and hidden symbols shaped one of the most mysterious movements in modern art. Surrealism was born in the 1920s, out of the ashes of World War I, when artists and writers searched for something beyond the rational world that had led to so much destruction. The movement's founder, André Breton, called it pure psychic automatism, a way to tap into the unconscious mind, to paint not what we see but what we dream. And Dalí, more than anyone else, embraced this vision with an almost mystical intensity. When we look at Dalí's persistence of memory from 1931, it seems at first like a strange landscape with soft, melting clocks. But these clocks are more than a quirky idea. They're symbols of time losing its power, of reality bending under the weight of dreams. Some art historians even suggest they are a hidden reference to Einstein's theory of relativity, filtering into Dalí's dream logic. But there's something more occult happening here. The barren landscape recalls the deserts of Catalonia where Dalí grew up, a place he often described as spiritual ground. The strange creature lying in the middle, almost like a melted face, is said to be Dalí himself, slipping between dream and reality. Dalí had a fascination with the occult, with alchemy, with the mystical power of symbols. For him, art was a way of reaching into hidden worlds. Take his use of ants, which crawl across many of his canvases. In European folklore, ants are linked to decay, death, and the inevitable return of the body to dust. But for Dalí, they were also a reminder of the strange beauty in that transformation. Or consider the egg, another of his favorite symbols. The egg represented birth, creation, and cosmic power. For Dalí, it was a magical object that linked the fragility of life with the promise of rebirth. And then there are the eyes, giant eyes watching from nowhere. The eye in surrealism was more than a body part. It was a portal, a mirror to the soul. And in the occult traditions that inspired Dalí, the eye was a symbol of hidden knowledge, of the ability to see beyond the ordinary. But Dalí was not alone in this. Surrealism as a whole was fascinated by the mystical and the dreamlike. Max Ernst used strange hybrid creatures inspired by alchemical texts. Leonora Carrington filled her canvases with magical horses and witches that came straight out of myth and occult rituals. René Magritte painted ordinary objects in uncanny ways, turning pipes, apples, and bowler hats into mysterious signs. All of them believed that art could be a gateway to the unconscious. And for many, that unconscious was not just psychological, but spiritual. Dalí himself used techniques that sound almost like magical rituals. One of his favorites was the paranoid critical method, a way of putting himself into a trance-like state where his mind would generate irrational connections, strange images, and symbolic visions. He described it as a way of cultivating delirium with method, which sounds as much like occult practice as it does psychology. Think of his painting The Great Masturbator, where a distorted head lies pressed to the ground, surrounded by locusts, lions, and erotic figures. It's bizarre, unsettling, almost ritualistic. Dalí was confronting the hidden fears and desires buried in the unconscious, pulling them onto the canvas like a magician summoning spirits. And what about his obsession with dreams? Dalí once said that surrealism was not about painting dreams, but about creating them. He used tricks to capture dreamlike states, like falling asleep in a chair holding a key, so that the moment he dozed off, the key would drop, wake him up, and he could sketch the strange images from the border of sleep and waking. It's no surprise that Dalí became fascinated with Freud, the great interpreter of dreams. Freud's writings on symbols, repression, and the unconscious shaped surrealism from the very beginning. But Dalí took Freud's ideas further, combining them with his own taste for mysticism, for magic, and for the occult. Even Dalí's public persona was part of the performance. With his sharp mustache and theatrical gestures, he often looked like a magician or an alchemist showing the world not just paintings but visions. He wanted to live inside the surreal. But behind the showmanship, there were real questions. Were his melting clocks and strange eggs only playful dreams? Or were they codes, occult symbols pointing to truths about time, mortality, sexuality, and creation? One painting that reveals this side of Dalí is Dream, caused by the flight of a bee around a pomegranate a second before awakening. In it, a nude woman floats in midair while tigers leap out of a fish that bursts from a pomegranate. The symbolism is dizzying. The bee is the trigger of the dream. The pomegranate is a fruit tied to fertility and myth. The tigers and the rifle point to violence. But put together, it feels like a magical vision, a ritual in paint that links personal dream imagery with universal myth. Dalí often blurred the lines between science, psychology, and the occult. He explored nuclear physics, Catholic mysticism, and alchemy, searching for symbols that could hold all these contradictions together. For him, surrealism was not only about surprise and shock, but about reaching into mysteries too big to explain logically. And in this way, surrealism itself was like an occult order. The artists weren't simply painting, they were conjuring. They were revealing what was hidden. They believed that by entering the dream world, they could transform reality itself. Today, when we step into a museum and stand before Dalí's paintings, we're not just looking at art. We're entering a world of symbols, a dream space where the unconscious mind whispers its secrets. Maybe you see a melting clock and laugh. Maybe you see ants and feel uneasy. Maybe you see a giant eye and sense something watching you. Whatever you feel, you're experiencing the same strangeness that Dalí invited into his canvases. A sense that the world is more mysterious, more symbolic, and maybe more magical than we usually admit. So the next time you find yourself looking at Dalí's dreamscapes, ask yourself, what symbols are speaking to me? What part of my own unconscious is answering back? Because the occult world of surrealism is not only in the paintings, it's in the viewer too. And maybe, just maybe, Dalí's true magic was not in showing us his dreams, but in awakening our own.
If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button. It really helps the channel grow. Feel free to share it with a friend who loves a good mystery. And if you haven't already, please subscribe so you won't miss the next story. There's a lot more to uncover, and I'd love to have you along for the journey.